So for those that are starting with trying to comprehend what Odinism is, it's a very complex cult. It's actually a gateway cult that ties into interpreting through ancient mythologies of other religions and cults, such as the cults of Babylon, the cults of Baal, Marduk, the Order of the Golden Dawn. Like, these are a lot of groups that have a lot of common interests. And when you start to look at what Odinism is from the outside looking in, it's not something as simple as just the construct of one ideology. There's a lot more that, through what they call interpretatio Romano, where they equated Germanic gods with Roman and Greek gods based upon the perceived similarities. They can see where Odin was equated as Mercury, or in Greek Hermes. And that's how it also extends into the ancient Egyptian mythology of Thoth, as above, so below. So that's where you come up with Hermes Mercurius Trismegistus, where it's a very complex ideology, and that's why, as they are entered in through this process, they have to also come to understanding and learning all of this on their own. And how they can interpretate one mythology or religion with an ideology that they believe shows the exact same basis of perceived similarities. This is how you have to start with Odinism, but also understand that it ties into other cult-like and other cults that have been and are active, like who would be involved in stuff around February 13th. So what cults, not just in ancient times, but what is on record as being something that would be a high prolific date to something that would stand out. And February 13th just so happens to be one of the dates that tie into a festival from ancient Roman times known as Lupercalia. Now, Lupercalia is dedicated to Faunus in Roman mythology, but also in Greek mythology known as Pan. Now, within the ideology from Odinism, how it can be looked at as Jupiter and can be seen as Zeus, and Zeus can also be seen as, I believe it's Odin's father, Bar. I can't remember. I can't recall the name right now. But it all stays within this cultural identity of interpreting one for another as like an avatar, right? So it's cultural identity, right? So this is where you have many of these links to other ideologies of cults, but within Freemasons, this is how it ties into the worship of as Satanism. You know, this is where it was found within what was found February 13th, 2017. Abby and Libby were missing from the trails, and then on February 14th, their bodies were found. And on February 15th, this was the day of what they believe. Like, this is not anything like this was their Harmony Day. of the new world without those girls and all this, because that is their offerings from this sacrificial ritual that they had in this ceremony to their gods, Odin, Hermes, Mercury, Trismegistus, Pan, because Pan is the son of these deities, Hermes, these Greek gods. So on Earth, they would have this festival known in ancient times in Roman Faunus, in Greek Pan, and it was all about being wild in the fertility. It was about the end of a cycle, the beginning of a new cycle. It was about a lot of harvest, just everything. It was actually the most important ceremonies within ancient Roman times was Lupercalia. And that's where you start to look at Libby had a post on her Instagram about she was waiting for her Peter Pan to come and take her away. And then you had the state mention this to Keegan Kline, as that is why they said this to Keegan Kline about Peter Pan, is because they thought that Keegan Kline would pick up on that, because that's something that they believed the person that's made that statement or was talking to Libby through the avatar of Peter Pan was somebody that was involved in this crime. But yet, and this is how it ties into, okay, it's still not done, because this is where you can keep going, because with all of it, it ties into this practice of a ceremony known as Kundalini. This is part of the ritual of the zodiacal lights within the ceremony known as of Lupercalia, but the dedication from as above, so below, because you have on Earth the son of Hermes, Pan. You have him on Earth, right? You have the festival on Earth, but in the stars at that time, you have the alignments of Mercury. Remember, I've shown you all of this stuff, and I still have it. It's not a big deal, but the comets, Enki and Honda, and they believed Enki was one of the ancient deities that was also in association to Enlil. So this is a lot to take in, because it plays into their ideology of what they believed what was coming and what was going to happen was the end of the world. The gods, whatever they were, Greek, Roman, or Satanic, or Anunnaki, were going to be returning, and that they believed by offering these two children, they had offered liberty, because they had literally left the message in the two girls' bodies that they had liberty from their Germanic pagan roots of what it was they were involved in. Like, everything was down to a precise T. Like, everything was done for a specific, exact reason, specific timeline, specific details. Everything was down to, like, you couldn't plan this any fucking better, because of the way the planets were moving, the way the stars were moving. Everything that was happening up there was represented down on Earth within the dates of the bodies being discovered and the bodies being kidnapped. So when you look at who was at the crime scene that day, you find that there was people involved into the specific ideology of the Kundalini. So David McCain just so happens to be one of these people there. Now, this is a very sexual ancient magic. It's something that was forbidden for years and is still somewhat frowned upon by the world, because what it actually is when we're talking about it, they believe it's basically a gateway to Satan, to this god they call Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth, who has this weird deal actually with this other god named Pan. So I have another video posted that goes over this, because Pan does have a connection and link now back into the Kundalini Gnostics' belief of attempting to gain higher consciousness through their pineal gland. That's what the chakras and all of that is within Kundalini. They're attempting to contact this devil within an offering. If you kill one, right, you gain eternal life. That's what it is that is tied into the ideology of the, and some of it's hidden, and some of it's like you have to discover it yourself, because this is part of something that's like this has never been discovered, anything like this before. So it's going to be extremely difficult for people to even understand and attempt to comprehend. But when you start with Odinism, this is how it brings you into people that were associated and practitioners of something that may have began with Odinism as a true, but definitely led into Satanism. And how it led into Satanism is like, if you look at what Patrick Westphal was talking about with Loki, well, Loki can be seen as Lucifer or the devil, okay? But that's through interpreting. Do you understand? And that's what they've been doing. They've been using the Holy Bible as interpreting Yahweh for Zeus. That there can also be interpreted as Yaldabaoth, right? That's how they believe through this process that Satan is the creator of this world, and that when you look at ancient tradition times and things that are forbidden and have been removed from history, this is what they were involved in that day, and are so ashamed that you're going to actually start to figure out what it is.